If there's an overlooked classic games system, it's got to be NEC's PC Engine, aka the TurboGrafx 16. Big in Japan, not so much elsewhere, and that goes double for its CD-ROM add-on, which barely made a showing in the West, but honestly had some of the best games of its generation. And usually it is the games that are lacking with these overlooked systems, but definitely not here. I think bad marketing and just general confusion was the problem with this one outside of Japan. The PC Engine CD, the TurboGrafx CD, it did have a lot of guises. It took on many forms. Let's take a journey through its library, starting with Fighting Street from 1988. If you think this looks suspiciously like the original Street Fighter, then yeah, that's what this is. Its name changed due to some trademark silliness. This game appeared on a few home systems, mostly computers, but this is by far the best version. It's not arcade perfect, but it is surprisingly close, and hey, even the original couldn't boast the CD soundtrack that this has. Alongside Fighting Street, the December 1988 CD system's debut saw two other titles as well, not quite games, more like sort of infotainment. None of this, I'm sure, that really has much interest now, but at the time it was revolutionary. Launched just over a year after the original console, the PC Engine CD add-on was one of the first major consumer devices to use CD-ROM technology, which might help to explain its success. The PC Engine was outselling even the Famicom in the late 80s in Japan, and mating it with this brand new technology to turn it into the first CD-based console was bold and different. Some later CD systems had a hard time, but not this one, which got there first. So what did the PC Engine CD actually bring to the table? Well, it was literally a CD-ROM add-on and not much else. It's almost like a CD-driven flashcart. There's no extra processing power at all, unlike the later Sega CD, for example. It just promised lots of storage space for the existing console and the ability to add a CD audio soundtrack. Alongside the CD drive itself, there's the system card, which plugs into the main console like a cartridge, containing the BIOS plus some buffer RAM to actually load data into, and that's all there is. If Fighting Street looks like it might be a cartridge game with a fancy soundtrack, well, that might be because that's exactly what it is, and not necessarily a bad thing though, compared to the multimedia-focused misery that other CD-based systems later became known for. But speaking of misery, that is the precise opposite of what today's sponsor Encore will offer you. You see, Encore is the new place to learn about and shop for Pokemon cards, collectibles and video game stuff, amongst other items. When you're shopping on Encore, real collectors tell you about what they're selling in short video listings, kinda like TikTok combined with an online auction. It's the new best place to find hidden gems in collecting. If you want a good alternative to live stream shopping or old school marketplaces like eBay, this app is going to be for you. And if you use my link in the description, you'll get up to $200 in credit to spend on the app, and all you have to do is download it and sign up. Let's have a look at what's on offer. Auctions that seem to be really popular on here. There is Buy It Now as well, but auctions, you just swipe to bid, or you can set your max bid and the system bids up to it automatically. And if you make sure to save an auction, you'll get notified when there's 5 minutes left, and Encore takes trust and safety very seriously. Sellers are ID verified, and the Encore guarantee protects you when your item comes not as described. And since every listing is a video, you can get to know the sellers you're buying from and see what you're shopping for better than anywhere else. say goodbye to stock photos, ambiguous descriptions and uncertain purchases, and say hello to the wonderful world of Encore. And there's tons of giveaways in the app that are completely free to enter. You don't pay anything if you win, including shipping. So why not give it a go? Get up to $200 in credits to spend on Encore by using my link to download Encore on the iOS or Android app stores right now. So thank you Encore, and now we're back in the room with what was still at this point in its life known only as the PC Engine CD. And it actually took a while for it to gain traction. New releases were thin on the ground in the first year or so of its life, but by 1990 things had started to pick up with a bundle of major releases, including the very impressive Super Darius. A port of the arcade game from 1986, it's ditched the elaborate triple monitor layout that the original had, but went to great lengths to recreate many of its other features. That includes the soundtrack, apparently recorded from the original PCB, and, interestingly, the parallax scrolling backgrounds. Other 16-bit systems of the era, like the Mega Drive, had multiple background planes built in, allowing for these sorts of artificial depth effects to be done easily, but the PC Engine did not. How's this done then? Well, it's with clever use of sprites, something we've seen a few times here on these Pushing the Limits videos, but not that often. These objects that move independently of the background, usually used for the player, character, enemies and all that kind of stuff, are here turned into a background. Separating the two layers that make up the graphics let us see what's going on. Although the PCE can only handle 64 sprites on screen at once, it can be quite large, so if you're careful you can use them to draw scenery like what's on display here in a few of the levels. This is not something that the CD-ROM add-on actually helps with, really. The bare-naked PC Engine can do this too. It just seems to be more common with CD games. Maybe developers thought expectations would be higher. If they were, they probably wouldn't be disappointed with the PC Engine CD's catalogue. Other CD-based systems can seem like pretty slim pickings on the good games front, but not so much with this one. Next here is another amazing shooter with great visuals, a vertical scrolling one this time, and shooters, yeah, they were this system's speciality, and there's a lot of great ones that came on CD. But the question is, are there any games that really did anything special with all that extra storage space? Something that could just not be done with a cartridge, something that really pushed this system's limits, even if it is terrible multimedia misery? Well, there is, and it came from the desert. And yet, let's send it straight back. Might be your first thought. This has got to be some of the worst whatever this is I've ever seen. But hey, it does seem to be in English, and at least the actors do seem to be fairly enthusiastic about it. Yeah, and this isn't really a PC Engine game, actually. It is an endearingly goofy TurboGrafx CD game. In 1989, the PC Engine left Japan and was reborn in North America as the TurboGrafx 16, with the TurboGrafx CD add-on following a year later. Exactly the same inside, by the way, the same console as the Japanese version with a different name and a new look, just to avoid any confusion. There'll be plenty of time for confusion later on. But anyway, this was released in 1992 and was one of a few games developed outside of Japan with a bit more of a focus on what that CD technology could do, or not do, as it turned out in this case.
I thought we were going someplace together, Buzz. Maybe California?
Because unlike, say, the Sega CD, the TurboGrafx CD did not have any sort of video decoding built in, meaning that it struggled with full motion video like this in a big way. with a single-speed CD-ROM drive which transferred data at 150 kilobytes a second and just a 64 kilobyte buffer to load stuff into, plus its 8-bit CPU and limited video RAM bandwidth. It's impressive that they even got this working at all. Kudos to Cinemaware for giving it a go. They were known for their high production value stuff on other platforms, especially the Amiga, but they do seem to have left them out for this one. I'm sure there is an interesting story behind the development of this. Maybe they overreached themselves, I don't know. But I would actually, honestly, wholeheartedly recommend a playthrough of this game just for its surreal insanity. A real gem of a terrible game. We can do a little better than this technically though with Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, another Western developed game from 1991, and this does quite a lot better with the video. It's still not great, it looks almost as good as the Sega Mega CD is the best compliment you can pay it, but it definitely looks better than it came from the desert. The frame rate might be a bit choppier, but at least it's actually colourful enough to look like an actual video. It came from the desert, was limited to 16 colours. This is 225, I think. I don't quite know how they did it, but this does seem to be much better optimised. John Madden's Duo CD Football is another game I want to have a quick look at because this does feature lots of video, but it is actually a decent game, or so I hear. American football isn't really my field of expertise, to put it mildly, but this, like most of the classic Madden series, does seem to have been well received by fans. Most of the gameplay is old school 2D sprite based stuff, but it's interspersed with various video clips to add a bit of flavour. I was hoping the video quality in this would be even better. It's not, sadly, about the same as Sherlock Holmes. Why the optimism? Well, this isn't just a TurboGrafx CD game, this is a Turbo Duo game. What on earth is a Turbo Duo? Well, it's a TurboGrafx and the Turbo CD unit combined into one sleek console, and not only that, it has a bit of a spec bump too. The RAM buffer is increased to 256 kilobytes, which I thought might allow for better video, but no, sadly, I think the memory bandwidth trumps all that. But it did offer a whole new range of games, and don't worry, if you've got the original CD-ROM, you can upgrade it with the Super System card. Yes, an add-on for an add-on, and it just gets more complex from here, believe me. You could also buy the Super System CD unit, which doesn't need the Super System card, it's already got it built in, but well, let's just leave that all for now. And let's leave full motion video behind as well and move on to an unmitigated classic from 1993, Akuma Joe Dracula X Chi no Rondo, or Castelvania Rondo of Blood, the Western title when it was remade much later, but this is one of the many Super System CD-ROM games, and it is possibly the best. Actually, not just possibly, this is the best Super System CD-ROM game, a really good game all round. I did talk about this game in another video ages ago, but that was before I learned to speak English almost like a normal human being, so forgive me for going over old ground on this one, but wow, this really is great. The direct prequel to Symphony of the Night. This is kind of the high point of the classic Castlevania series before it's morphed into Metroidvania. This is classic Konami action platformer stuff in every sense. Tough, yes, but well designed with that punchy artistic flair and an epic soundtrack. Again, this goes to great lengths to hide the fact that there's only one background layer and comes up with neat tricks to generate those parallax effects. Sometimes it's with sprites, but here on level 1 it's using some clever software rendering to make the distant cliff, or whatever it is, look like it's moving at a different rate than the foreground. It's a simple backdrop, so this can be done by animating just a few background tiles in sync with the scrolling. This is something that Ninja Ryukenden or Ninja Gaiden tried to do on the PC Engine the year before and failed miserably. That was a cartridge game, but like I said, the CD-ROM doesn't actually increase those graphical capabilities, so the fact that this looks so good is just brilliant programming and Konami in beast mode. They'd been making some of the absolute best looking home games across multiple platforms for years by the time this came out in 1993, so they really knew how to get everything possible out of a system despite its constraints. They had the know-how and experience to pull off a ton of tricks and advanced techniques, and the ability to back all that up with great artwork and great game design too. Stage 5 is my own personal favourite, at least one version of Stage 5. This game does have some branching paths. I just love the movement of the boat. It's a simple effect, but it works really well, and the subtle parallax backdrop just completes it. Again, it's just sprites put to good use, but it does look great. This sadly never saw release outside of Japan, at least not until much later, but there was no region lock on CD games. You could have played this on a USA Turbo Duo if you'd known about it, which honestly I don't think anybody did, not even about the console itself, let alone this game. One that did make it to the USA is Super Air Zonk by Hudson Soft from 1993. They actually developed the PC Engine in collaboration with NEC, so no wonder they knew what to do with the hardware, making for a fantastically colourful shooter with some great effects. Whilst this must have been one of the last TurboGrafx releases, the system had a surprisingly long life in Japan, and in 1995 there was released one particularly good workout for the system. It's Cho Aniki. Workout is definitely the word for this one. The protagonist, a good old-fashioned oiled-up manly man, enjoying himself immensely floating through fantastical landscapes in a jockstrap. This might make some sense in context, but I fear it might not. But let's not get bogged down in the lore. This is a game that looks, well, it looks fabulous. Both this and Rondo of Blood make use of the massive storage available in the best way possible on a machine like this. Lots and lots of variety and detail. The biggest PC Engine cartridge game was Street Fighter 2 at 20 megabits, and even the largest Super NES games only hit 48 megabits. CD-ROM games though offered 100 times that. Yeah, a lot of it would be taken up by CD audio, but still there was so much space to play with, allowing for wonderfully intricate craziness like this. And even more parallax effects too. Yeah, this might be the best one yet. They were really going all out for this. By the time Cho Aniki came out, development on cartridge games had stopped completely, and you might think that NEC was burning goodwill with all these hardware upgrades, but there were more CD games made than cartridges during the console's life, and more Super CDs than original ones. Clearly there was room for yet another upgrade. That must have been what NEC was thinking, and that came in the form of the arcade card. This added a whole 2 megabytes of extra RAM as a buffer, paving the way for even more elaborate games. Yes, we're now 3 deep in add-ons. If you wanted to play arcade card games, you could buy either an arcade card for the original PC Engine CD system or a separate one that would upgrade both the later Super CD system add-on or the Duo. Make sure you buy the right upgrade card for your system though, because it won't work if you get the wrong one. There was also the new Duo R system, a revised version of the Duo, then the Duo RX, which was revised even more and came with a 6-button controller, both of which would use the same arcade card as the original Duo. I could go on, I won't, it just gets more confusing from here on. There's a lot of adapters and adapters for adapters, and that's the straightforward PC Engine console ecosystem in a nutshell, which I'm sure caused no problems at all. Let's just look at an actual arcade card game, Ryu no Ken or Art of Fighting. A conversion from the Neo Geo, and probably the best version of this game outside of that original. The 2 megabytes of buffer RAM alongside the CD-ROM gave the PC Engine CD arcade, whatever it is, it gave it an advantage over the Super NES and the Mega Drive, both of which saw versions of this game too. The big sprites the system could throw around, backed up by the ability to access the massive amounts of graphics data needed, let this get remarkably close to the original. It even attempted to recreate the scaling in a slightly jarring way by switching the resolution on the fly. And if you do have the 6-button controller as opposed to the stock 2-button one, this does give you a very authentic experience. Now, there weren't as many arcade card system games as there were for the many other previous guises of the Turbo thing. In fact, I think it saw about 13 dedicated titles and some more that were enhanced by the add-on if you did have it. The really big one though, the one you might want to track down a Duo R for, is actually the last arcade card game ever released. Not the last CD game full stop, but the last arcade card game, let's just get on with it. From 1995, it's Ginga Fukei Densetsu Sapphire. The title means something like Galaxy Policewoman Legend Sapphire, and yeah, it's another shooter inspired by British TV show Juliet Bravo, so I'm very reliably informed and that isn't something I've made up, but it's an especially fine game. It looks superb and makes heavy use of something that was hot at the time, pre-rendered graphics, Donkey Kong Country style. There are huge 3D enemies with massively complex animations, plus warping, morphing, that's not a thing, warping, morphing, and sprite scaling stuff that 1987 PC Engine hardware just can't do on its own, but made possible by the massive storage space available. It just streams it in as animation. There's some other great stuff too that doesn't just rely on lots of data, but clever programming tricks like this lighting effect in stage 4 done by artfully switching the colour palette. And there's this flame effect in a few boss fights too, done by turning the background into a very low resolution bitmap display, a bit like the homebrew NES games I featured in my last video. This is definitely a worthwhile shooting game, one that stands up on its own for its gameplay, but, well, it's not quite a manic shooter or a bullet hell, but it is very intense, and most of all, it's just a wonderful spectacle. The PlayStation was already on the market by the time this came out, but it was only this and the rest of that generation of new 32-bit systems that could really surpass what Sapphire did with the PC Engine. If you're confused by the PC Engine / TurboGrafx range forest of stylish boxes with strange names, well, so am I. It's just a clown car of upgrades and add-ons and God knows what. It wasn't a good week at NEC unless they'd come up with a new version of the console, or at least something else to plug into it. The Super Graphics, the Core Graphics, the Core Graphics 2, the Shuttle, the TurboGrafx, the Turbo Express, the GT, the LT, the X1 Twin, stuff with laser discs, the 10 no Koei Bank, the Turbo Booster Plus, the Illust Booster, the PC Engine, the PC Engine Virtual Cushion. That was a real thing. The PC Engine Virtual Cushion, all official NEC stuff, not just third-party unlicensed stuff. Yeah, Sega got a bit carried away in the Mega Drive era. They had a few too many add-ons, but, well, at least they stocked before they got to the cushion stage. Let's just call this one done, shall we? If you can cut through all this, the PC Engine / TurboGrafx CD is amazing, with some of the standout games from its generation. The Duo, I suppose, is really the system's final form. You can play nearly all the games on it, maybe all of them or close to all of them if you get an arcade card. If you want to buy a PC Engine, that's probably the one to get, probably the best choice, and they aren't really crazy expensive if you can handle the shipping and the hassle of getting it over from Japan, or you can just buy the basic PC Engine or TurboGrafx and the Crix Turbo EverDrive Pro, which will run all the CD games from an SD card without the CD add-on, or so I understand. Or if you're really budget conscious, you can do like I did and use a Raspberry Pi with an RGB output adapter and a TV you found on a park bench, though park benches in your area may vary. Okay then, that really is the end. Thanks again to my wonderful patrons. If you would like to join in with them, there is a link below. I really do appreciate the help, and I will say thanks once again to Encore for sponsoring this video, and thank you to you for watching, and goodbye.